good people? Happy Thursday. Another episode, the All Go Podcast. I'm your host, Desmond. It is quite chilly here in Michigan. One thing about Michigan, and if you talk to someone who's from here, which I am, they'll tell you about the awesome summers and how incredible it is. And oh my gosh, the summers, and we have a lot of beach towns and all that great stuff. What they don't say is summer lasts for 2 months. That's it. June and July. That's your summer. I'm exaggerating a little bit, but it's pretty nuts that it's like late April right now, and it snowed 2 days ago, like a snowstorm, and raining. Yesterday was snow on the ground. Not much today, and now it's like sun shining a bit, but nonetheless, it's just temperamental would be a good way to describe our weather. But anyway, wanted to talk about two topics today. One is what college football can learn from the NBA, and also Lincoln Riley, and is he really an offensive genius? Before I get started, please like, subscribe, collect the likes, all that good stuff. Appreciate the support. But as far as what can college football learn from the NBA, is I was just kind of looking at the landscape of like the NBA and the amount of guys who have already been injured. The list goes on, and some of them are, freak injuries, like LeBron James, his injury, that had nothing to do with, playing back as far as wear and tear. Like, that was just a guy rolled up on him. That's part of sports. It's part of basketball. So that part is understandable. But the other guys, like, this really popped in my head with James Harden, because he was rehabbing his hamstring injury, had a setback, and now is out like indefinitely. But it led me to, think about how many guys have been hurt this year. Some of it is, soft tissue, and, some of it is things like tailbone bruise, like with Steph Curry. Like, that's kind of difficult to predict, but nonetheless, I would venture out to say that injuries are up in the NBA. And I think a lot of that had to do with the shortened break that these guys had. The season ended around, was it May, June, something like that. And then, these guys are back before Christmas. And I want to say the season might have ended after June. Usually, yeah. So season ended, like, call it July, August. And these guys are coming back 4 months later to start their season again. And I just don't think they got a long enough break. There were guys who were talking about, being able to enjoy Christmas at home with their families, which they don't ever get to do because a lot of the superstars play on Christmas Day. And this past Christmas was no different. They had to play on that day. But I don't think they got a long enough break. And you're seeing, superstars in the league. Kevin Durant has been injured. James Harden has been injured. I believe Kyrie's been injured. Steph Curry, LeBron, AD, like, the list goes on. And I point those guys out because when you get to a certain point in the league, you kind of understand how to take care of yourself and take care of your body. As a rookie, as a young guy, you don't really know, like, what an 82-game schedule plus playoffs looks like and what it does to your body. But all of those guys are, I think, the least tenured guy of who I mentioned is probably AD or Kyrie at, 6-7 years in the league. So these guys know what they're doing, but the fact that they are getting injured, to me, shows that the NBA did not give them enough rest, enough time off. And for college football, and especially the guys, the teams that had spring seasons, I think they need to be very careful and very weary of having guys play full contact spring football and then going and having these guys in July and August get back in training camp in full pads and hitting and doing the same thing. I think, for those teams, it's a difficult spot to be in, but I think coaches need to make sure that they are hyper aware of making sure that guys over the summer are taking care of themselves, are resting, and really, as you start to phase back in of training camp, I think, it's when you think about training camp, it's usually physical and you hit a lot and all that good stuff. And if I was a coach, I'd be very hesitant to have a quote unquote traditional training camp. I would be very big on not going that traditional route to make sure, you know, you keep your guys on the field. So we will see what happens, but I think if you're, you know, a head coach that your team played a spring season, which I believe the FCS schools are playing right now. I think there's some type of tournament that's going on right now. So, I mean, this is late April, so we're talking, even say there's 3 rounds, you're talking mid-May that these guys are going to be done, and you're talking 3 months later, 3-4 months later, you're going to be back in training camp. So if I was a head coach, I'd be very weary of that and treat training camp in a very unique manner. So we shall see what happens. Lincoln Riley, I think for Oklahoma, I think this is the best shot that they have to win a national championship in quite a while. I think Baker Mayfield was a really good quarterback, and I think Spencer Rattler is better. And then also, too, you look at how last year ended for them, winning the Big 12, winning their bowl game against Florida. That was a pretty good opponent that they played. But I think if they don't win it, I think the shine of Lincoln Riley is it's not gonna be gone. Obviously, he's a great coach, but just that shine of the, you know, the offensive genius, I'm just not sure you can keep that name and that reputation if, you know, you are losing games, and partially because of your offense. Like, I think of when they played Georgia in the semifinal in the Rose Bowl. Shout out to RJ Young. I'm a big fan of his. He probably doesn't know who I am, but listen to his podcast. But he had a tweet last week that just said, if anyone brings that up, it was a meme or something of like somebody throwing stuff around, being all pissed off, just because they had Georgia on the ropes, 31-17 in the first half, and they scored no points in the third quarter. They scored, I believe, 14 points in the fourth quarter, and in 2 overtimes, they scored 0 points, which obviously the second overtime, I don't think they got the ball, but nonetheless, you scored no points in the third quarter, and, you know, you scored 17 points in, let's say, a second half plus overtime. Like, you're the offensive genius. You got to be better than that, you know, especially in a game that you were ahead, you were winning. And, you know, Georgia at that point wasn't a high-flying offense. They still aren't. But you've got to be able to close that deal. And I think, you know, this year, I think everything's going to be there for them to win the national championship. And I think if they don't get it done, I'm not sure he will. And people could say, like, oh, well, you know, he just hasn't done it yet. That's correct. But if you, okay, I could, it's not a fair equivalency, but I could say that about Jim Harbaugh, that, oh, well, Michigan can win a national championship. They just haven't done it yet. Well, at some point you understand that winning a national championship is not just a pop out of nowhere, that you totally change as a head coach and all of a sudden you get great in specific situations and situational football, and, you know, you recruit better, and like, that usually doesn't happen. You are who you are. You could get a pop like LSU did, but I would argue that LSU has always had the talent there to win a national championship. They just couldn't get the quarterback down. And then, you know, Les Miles is too old school. Running, you know, power toss every couple plays, that's not going to get it done. So it'll be interesting. Oklahoma was actually my preseason pick to win the national championship, but I don't know. I think if Lincoln Riley doesn't get it done this year, I think there'll be some questions on if he will get it done. But we shall see. As I mentioned, like, subscribe. Appreciate the support, and yeah, have a good one. And I'll probably post a video tomorrow. So, peace.